We are live on
we are
the
live.
European Technology Network, and we are joined by Tobias.
Clap, man.
Dude, what is going on? Welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. It's really great to be here.
No, it's,
How are you doing? Linen blazer. What the hell?
pleasure. Yeah, Luke was telling me that you were going to wear a linen blazer. Apparently, you guys have been chatting last night.
Dude, the same day I'd put it up on the attic because I was like, goddamn, European summer is over. I've been on a break since May until October, classic European summer, but now I've just started working again. So
He's locking in. We were literally just talking about when do you lock in? The famous question of when in life do you lock in? Do you have fun until 25? Do you like
that you lock in, or is it a month?
This is a deep question to ask.
Yeah,
I think that there's many downsides of being based up in the Nordics where life kind of sucks for 6 months or 5 to 6 months every year. But you do really fucking lock in October, November, December, January, February. Like when the sun goes down at 2 p.m., you just grind. You just lock in, literally. Lock yourself.
See, that's interesting because I think in the great lock-in period in the UK, I think is maybe like September to maybe, it's online.
The UK people just hate talking to people, to be honest. So as soon as September hits, it's like, that's it. Yeah, I'm locking in. I'm not talking to any human being ever.
Shut. Yeah.
But look, Tobias, dude, what's going on in Antler land? Give us an intro, and then we can go from there.
So what's going on in Antler land? For those who don't know Antler before, let's do a quick brief intro. Antler is like a fund house globally, founded back in, I think, 2018 was probably the official launch, could have been earlier. Now at $1.4, I think, billion under management. We've been growing very, very quickly to be an early stage mandate. We're now across 30 different locations. And then a growth fund on top of that. So in each location, we run our very early stage pre-seed investing. And I'm obviously a partner here in Stockholm for our Nordic fund with offices Stockholm, Oslo, Helsinki, and Copenhagen. And what's happening is just like, it's a great freaking time to be in early stage. I mean, you see now all across Europe how being in seed, where before in Europe, you've had very, very cautious seed investing. You've waited quite far. You've wanted to see a lot of proof, a lot of ARR and everything. And now everyone who's waiting as a Nordic or European seed investor, you just see the multi-stage investing funds coming in and snipe up all the good deals, which makes it really, really good and really, really fun to be in the very early stages. So that's what's up. What's happening is just like we're seeing so much talent starting companies right now here in Stockholm. I mean, not surprisingly, I guess, we have Lovable as the shining light, and then we have Legora, Tandem Health, Sana Labs, all of this. And for me, who's been in the Stockholm tech ecosystem for more than 10 years, there's never been this optimism, and it's never been so obvious for someone who's like 25 years old and super talented that starting a company just makes total sense. And going all in, locking in at a very young age is a very, very reasonable move to do.
Yeah, that's wicked to hear. I recently watched an interview with Luca Ferrari at Bending Spoons, and he was saying how Bending Spoons is almost like a bit of a beacon for founders in Europe. That's why they stayed in Milan and Italy, and obviously they have operations globally. But it's a proof to show that you can build incredible businesses in these places, and that's what kind of spurs on entrepreneurship. Do you think like that is? You know, what was like Anton and the guys over at Lovable? What's their like? That's their main impact for like Stockholm. Do you think that was like a catalyst for it?
For sure, I think so. If we back to do some history, the first part is that this is not like the first wave in Stockholm. It is the third wave. We have the Skype era first. I think the first European unicorn. Obviously, not only Swedish, also quite Estonian and a little bit Danish, but very much claimed by us Swedes, and a lot of talent that came from there. Then we had the second generation, which was really Spotify and Klarna, late 00s. And now when you have the third generation, obviously Lovable and the aforementioned, these guys have been growing up with Stockholm having a tech ecosystem. So for them, it's not weird that you can build a global company like Skype or Spotify from Stockholm, of course expanding with talent and everything elsewhere, but really being based here and having your your actual headquarters here. So I think that's the history. And then leading up to now, I think Anton has had a tremendous effect on both operators and founders and also investors here. I think everyone has stepped up, and I mean, I think he's saying it less often now, but for some time, every time I opened like social media, it was Anton saying we're building $1 trillion company out of Stockholm or out of Europe. And I think, let's see, right, if it turns into that or not, but just saying that should be possible, that's where we should aim, actually lifted an entire continent 1,000x. Before that, building a unicorn was so cool, and whenever it became a unicorn, we sold it to some American company, and then we were like patting each other on the back. Oh my God, congrats guys, you became a unicorn. Then Anton comes around and he's the unicorn after, less than a year or whatever. And then he says, I'm building $1 trillion valued company. That is the new target. And everyone just steps up to that.
I completely agree. You said something just then that was really interesting about like the power of even just vocalizing it, right? Even just saying it. And I was chatting with Luke and I were at a dinner with a couple of friends recently, and I was discussing this exact thing that you mentioned here, like the power of just sort of being more vocal about successes, or like the plans to succeed or the plans to be great. And it was actually a friend of mine that shared with me like a piece of information regarding like prior to the Industrial Revolution in the UK. If you go onto Google like word search, you can see that the print number of the number of times that the words like hope and optimism and futuristic and future were printed in the years running up to the Industrial Revolution. It was like 3 years prior to the Industrial Revolution like even starting. But you see an increase in an influx in the words being spoken that have these like connotations to a future of growth and prosperity, which I thought was ridiculous. I thought that was mental. I thought that was so interesting. So I hear you when you say like there is power in just being like optimistic about this, right? There was another, I can't remember the other quote, but it was like the pessimist is usually right and the optimist is usually rich or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is funny.
And you guys, just as you spend all your waking time thinking about the future, thinking about tech, thinking about startups, right? So we're always at the forefront. For us, the AI revolution has already happened. But if you look at it from a societal perspective, Anton starting to say that Lovable is going to be $1 trillion company and spewing out that optimism is way earlier than when the AI revolution actually hits the broader market and when we actually get to see the societal benefits. So I think you will probably see the same if you fast forward a few decades into the future, that like those who already in 2023, 24 started talking about how this is going to change everything, AGI, all the different terms you use for it, they were actually ahead of the curve when it then hit the hopefully super prosperous future we'll have.
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk about Project Europe. You're semi-involved in Project Europe in some respect, is that right?
I'm a friend of the guys, and happy to help out whenever I can. I mean, I truly believe in the mission, backing young founders as early as possible, and especially here in Europe. Speaking about it, I think that's another way of really, really pushing optimism into this continent.
Yeah, I agree. I want to touch on a LinkedIn post you wrote the other day about the 3 ways to win. 1, build global from day 1. 2, go to the US. 3, make Europe / the region your moat. Can we deep dive on that? And I've got a few questions about it, but I want to kind of hear your take overall first.
Yeah, for sure. So, this was after me being in SF a month back, and really like the difference you get in SF is if you win locally there, you win globally in tech. Like there's very rarely someone who can win locally in SF and not become the global dominant player. Like, and you can look at that in the AI wave now. Like it's OpenAI that's winning. It's unfortunately not Mistral. It's before that it was Google who won the search market, not anybody else, etc. Right? So what wins locally there usually wins globally. Here it's not at all like that, right? If I win the Stockholm market or the Swedish market, it has almost like probably negative correlation with winning globally, if that's what I'm over obsessed with. So when I came back from there, I really wanted to push that out to every European founder that like you can only win globally if you think about it from day one, and there's 3 different ways. And the first one, as you said, like it's like Lovable did, right? There's never been borders to Lovable. Of course, there's some areas in the world where it can't be used, I'm sure, due to firewalls, but in general, it's global from day one. Nobody needed to know it was Swedish. It could have been from SF, it could have been from anywhere. And that works for some very PLG-led products. The second one is like you go to the US very quickly. Like if you realize you're from Stockholm or Paris or Berlin or London, and you realize you see early traction on something that can be a global category leader, then you go to the US next. You don't start dabbling around in Europe, etc. You don't go anywhere else. You go in the US market because winning the US is always what correlates mostly with winning globally. And then thirdly, like you can, in certain areas, really build a really big company by regionalizing and using that as a moat. But then there has to be a reason. So I think in food delivery, you've seen this. You had Deliveroo take a really good position in the UK. You had Volt take a strong position in other countries. And you have Delivery Hero generally being strong in Europe and other regions as well. And where it really makes sense because you have the physical part, similar with Tandem Health from Sweden in the medical scribe business, where the legislation regulatory side is such that it makes sense that someone wins locally. But however, the main death trap is that so many companies try to use this as a reason for winning. So they make up that they have this moat. Oh, we have a moat in Europe. Oh, Europe is special. And then at the end of the day, they realize they didn't. And it just the best product actually wins, no matter if it's from Europe or from the US or from Singapore or from wherever. So yeah, that was, I guess, the gist of the story.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think we who was it? Was it Martin Mignot that we had on the old show ages ago, and talks about this like this need to build global from day one, and this need to it just has to be something that you're always thinking about. He gave like Revolut as a really good example as to how they were constantly thinking about that. And one of the disadvantages in two ways, like a disadvantage or an advantage, is like for these companies that are kind of like landlocked, especially in Europe, that don't really get to, like, if they want to launch to a new country, they've essentially got to build a new business. It does kind of in a way train them to get like used to launching new markets in a way, because it's the same product in a different country, but there are so many different rules and regulations and the way that consumers think or the way that businesses think that like they're essentially launching a new company every single time, right? And they have to put new people on the ground, new hire people. So like, yeah, I mean, it's just interesting to hear the comparisons between the two. Is that like, I don't know, is that something that when you guys chat to these early players, like should they be, is it as early as that, should they be thinking about it, or even at pre-seed?
Because I have this audio video frame error from Riverside. Is it fine?
Oh, you have an error? I don't think so. Ola, are we good on the stream? Yeah, we're good.
Prompts me to restart it, but let's try it then. No, I think that's a great point. I mean, in the earliest stages, what I'm looking for is so of course there's a bunch of characteristics on the founder, on the product, because of how early we invest. It just has to be directionally interesting and in an interesting space and heading somewhere in that sense. And then that the mindset is of being a global winner, right? And being a global winner, of course, there are different like paths to get there. I think Spotify, as an example, famously did some sort of like first Sweden, then trying the UK because they saw the UK as US but smaller, and then US. And there are these different like archetypes. But if I sit down with them and they say, yeah, we really want to become a Nordic leader, and they're not building something like a bank where the market is huge, that's just not going to cut it. Like if you're not playing to win a space globally, then none, that's not going to work.
Is that the consensus amongst like most VCs, I guess now, right? If they're looking for that fund returner, it's like you can't, if I approach a VC and I'm like, hey, I want to build like the best thing in the UK, they're kind of like...
I think it's at least it's a great question. At least here in Nordics, I think it's definitely a generational shift. As I've spoken about, I think on the seed side investing, it's been very much more low risk, rather get 3 to 5x on every company than a lot of them going to 0 and some going 100x. And it's been way more more mature stage investing than what it should be, according to me. But now we're really seeing a generational shift where we're starting to act more like, I guess, US VCs in pre-seed and seed, where you are way more risk on. But being more risk on also means you have to be seeing the rewards in those who actually work.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think it's I don't think it's a problem that companies are looking to build global earlier, especially companies from the or started from the EU and kind of expanding globally from there, like. That's the golden ticket, right? Especially in VC, like that's how you get to 100x. It's very, very rare to get to a 100x company or larger if you're only tackling one small market like a Stockholm or one country or whatever. So I think that's interesting. Are you seeing, where do you see the opportunity in European kind of markets from US investors kind of looking in? We had a partner at Speed Invest on, Andreas, and he was saying there's actually less capital coming from the US now and more capital directly from EU into EU companies. Are you seeing that as well?
Well, that's an interesting take. In Stockholm, just because of how hyped the ecosystem has become, as we've discussed, a lot of it driven by Lovable, but also other companies. And I've been in Stockholm tech for more than 10 years, working at unicorns here locally and founding my own company. There's way more international VCs with boots on the ground or coming here frequently, hosting events. There's dinners hosted by Andreessen partners. There's people from Sequoia coming over. There's deals being done. So I definitely feel like they're more present here. On the data side, whether more or less capital is actually deployed, I would definitely guess more. If you look at Lovable in Stockholm, they raised $200 million from non-European lead. You have Legora that has mostly raised from US VCs, etc. Right? So. From my point of view, more US capital is coming here, and that US capital is really forcing us, the European VCs, to step up our game.
Yeah, which I guess is a good thing. There was one last thing, your contrarian take the other day on LinkedIn. Can we talk about that?
The Janti law.
The Janti law?
Yes, please. I'd love to. I don't know what that is. I've never heard of it.
Oh, right. So that, as you can probably see in the comment there where somebody is educating me, Frederick, I love him, on how it actually works or what it actually means to begin with. The Janti law in general is more or how I perceive it in day-to-day is more just this perception of how a Scandinavian is generally very different from, say, someone from the US. That we rarely boast about ourselves, that we're scared to seem like we're better than others, that you see very little difference between how wealthy someone is because it's not really okay or accepted to have expensive styles and expensive clothing, all of these things basically, and all of the things that you would probably refer to as us being a quote unquote socialist society. And the point that I was trying to drive home is that yes, in one way that's very bad for motivation and for becoming a founder and for really locking in and going for big outcomes, because you don't, in some way it kind of takes away the benefits because everything is supposed to be so flat and you can't talk about how much money you earn and everything. But on the flip side, it makes someone, and that's how I perceive myself, you always question everybody who has more than you or has done more than you. You always is that person better than me? No, they're not. I'm also we're all, in that way, we're all equal. We can all achieve something. So it has if you want to see it like that, it has a very positive twist. And I always post things which I agree to 60% or something in my own head, because then I know other people will have another opinion and start discussing it in their own heads. And this was definitely one of those things where I'm now 51 to 55% that this is how I feel about this Janti thing. Let's post it and see what the internet thinks.
Yeah, interesting.
If I can pull the thread, this is something I've spoken about before. It's everyone, of course, if you ask an American about the Nordic tax systems and health benefits and everything, we are a socialist country in their point of view. But the upside is thanks to how we finance student debt, that you get student debt from the government at very, 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 very low rates, that it's free universities, everything, you can be so risk on, and everyone can be risk on, not only the wealthiest 10-15%. You can get money enough to survive and live and go through uni through the government at a very, very good setup that doesn't ruin your life afterwards. And that makes it able for you to start your first company when you're 19, 20, 21 on the side of uni or straight after. So I think the point I'm trying to drive home is don't underestimate the outcomes we can have from a more, call it, equal or socialist or high tax ecosystem by the differences it makes in our mindset and our social security nets, basically.
Yeah, cool. That's a really interesting way of posting.
It's like a mental sparring test.
Where you're like, oh, I'm like 60% there. Let me get it out in the world and see what other people think. Even if if my reputation is I guess on the line a little bit. I don't know.
There's two things into that, right? One is people who just post like things that everybody 100% agrees with is kind of like fucking boring. And the second part is nobody remembers what you posted a month ago. Like,
so true.
Ask someone in a month, like, oh, did Tobias post about the Antler law? They're like, who is Tobias? So that's why. And I think I just want to put these like small nuggets into people's heads and then see if they stick around the day. And then people come up to me and some are like, oh, I love that post. It's so much resonated, or it's so much made me think. And that's more important to me than just posting about how amazing Stockholm is and how great Lovable is. And everybody already knows this. Like, let's try to dig one step deeper. But maybe it's just because I'm a failed philosopher at the end of the day who acts as a leader.
Dude. I mean, it's a good way to do it. I've
got to respect the self-awareness.
Can I ask one more question? I know we're like a minute over, but is that right? Yeah. I want to ask because we were obviously talking on DM yesterday, and you said like one thing that people will always love to dig into is going from like a founder position into a VC position. We tend to ask VCs, because it's interesting to hear their takes. What are you like? How do you succeed in VC? What's your kind of like opinion on how can you succeed in this weird bubble that we all like operate in?
Yeah, exactly. So for me, and this is different in every ecosystem, right? How much competition is, but for me, it's definitely been my operator and founder background. I mean, I've been a very early employee into unicorns here in the Nordics, and then I founded my own company, Memode, where we were probably the fastest growing consumer company in Europe at the time, going from $0 to $100 million valuation in less than 2 years, then from $100 million to zero in less than 2 years. So I think I have real battle scars. I can both talk about absolute momentum and just when, hiring and just getting shit done and having fires burning all around you is how to act and how to get through that. And also when shit hits the fan and everything just turns and how to go through that. So I think people really respect that and really understand that can be valuable to their journeys as well. And not being only this hype kid who's just like, oh my God, it's always going to be great. It's always, I'll back you. You're going to be the best. But I'll also be there and talk to you when things aren't the best and help you strategize and help you figure out ways. And I'll always have your interest because I know how it felt like for me going through that when you're not even 30 yet and you go from thinking you have $10 million of paper money to zero within a few weeks. And you're like, what the fuck happened? Yeah. And that is what I think gives me a somewhat of an edge. Of course, the story could have been very different. If I would have sold at $100 million, I would probably been the most arrogant guy and thought I was the gift of God to humanity. But now I'm a little bit more humble, and that probably helps as well.
Such an awesome answer.
That was a great answer. Well, look, good stuff. Thank you so much, Tobias.
Dude, thank you for joining us. It was super fun.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Good stuff.
Hope everything worked.
Bye.